Now my guitar is out of tune. I'm positive of it.
Definitely out of tune.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Guitareo Live lesson where we are going to do something pretty special because I know a lot of different people are kind of having this big influx of learning how to play the guitar and getting a new guitar for Christmas and everything like that. So we're going to do a beginner question and answer session. So we're streaming in a couple different places, the members area, guitarlessons.com, Facebook, YouTube, all of those things. And we're going to answer as many questions as we can for you guys today. We're going to start with the members because I know there are already a few in there. No resources for today. It's just going to be kind of a recap of the year, kind of a primer to get you started off on the right foot for next week's live lesson, which is going to be kind of on setting new goals and New Year's resolutions and things like that. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank all you guys for your support in the members area this year, all you guys that watch on YouTube on a regular basis, and just let you know that it's all about you. These live broadcasts are about helping you get better, and what better way to do that than address anything that's been giving you trouble lately. So that is what we're going to do, not before I tune my guitar though.
Yeah, make sure it's in tune.
It's not that bad.
Nice. So as Nate mentioned, YouTube and Facebook, you guys can also submit questions. It's a little harder to grab them, so I'm gonna do my best to follow along and get as many of them as I can. And we're just gonna kind of answer questions until we're out of time, and then that'll be it. The main focus will be on beginners, obviously. Lots of new players and stuff starting out with Christmas and New Year and stuff like that. But if you guys do have other questions and sneak them in there, we might answer them. We probably will. So yeah, on YouTube, you can submit those in chat. On Facebook, below the video, you can submit those as a comment. Again, I'll try and grab both of those. And then we also have from members. So again, those of you guys who are members, make sure you submit those below the video. Yes,
Cool.
okay.
I'm ready.
You're ready, okay. So let me make sure I grab the first one here. Alrighty, first one here is from Mathachew. Can you elaborate on a lot of action on strings? Nate has used this phrase in some of the beginner videos, specifically in getting your guitar set up, but for me it isn't clear on what that looks like and if my guitar has that issue.
Okay. If your guitar is really tough to play or the strings are really far away from the fretboard, I don't know, Taylor, if you can get a good shot on that. I don't know if that's feasible, but if your strings are far away from the fretboard like this, it could be for a couple of reasons, doesn't really matter. But if it's far away and they're really tough to push down, you have to push down a long ways to reach the fretboard. These are pretty low. Then that's what I mean by high action. It's just going to make it a little bit more difficult for you to play your guitar. And there's a trade-off that comes with that. If you have higher action, you're going to have less buzzing, and your guitar is generally going to be able to play it louder and get more volume out of it without it buzzing. The lower the action goes, the more chance you're going to have of it buzzing. But getting your guitar set up and getting the action as low as possible without buzzing is generally what I like to go for because I don't feel like I have to fight my guitar. Some people like a little bit stiffer feel on their guitar, you know, like it's a little bit tougher to push down. It's really up to you and how hard you dig in with your right hand. That's what I mean by high action.
Yeah, and it's different from person to person. I'm not sure if you mentioned this, but like I like my action higher than Nate likes his action, which it's a feel thing, but also I pick a little bit harder than you, I think, as well. Onward and forward to the next one here. This one is from Will Tell, another member question. Hello, Nate. Can you help me understand what skills and knowledge are needed to increase speed and musicality, and to figure out what I should work on in my practice time? Thanks, Bill. That's a big question.
That's a big question. To figure out let's start with that one because all the other stuff doesn't really matter if you don't know what to practice, right? Let's start with what to work on in your practice time. If you don't have a clearly defined goal that you want to get better at, then you're just going to have like a whole pages and pages and pages of stuff you can be practicing. So you need to write down a few attainable goals that you can work towards. I would recommend maybe doing 3, any more than that, and then you're going to run the risk of feeling really overwhelmed and be like, oh, I have so much to practice, I'll never get any of it done. Screw it, right? So I would do that. Write down what your specific goals are, and a couple examples of that are really simple. Maybe if you're a newer guitar player, you just want to be able to switch between your open chords smoothly and have them more than not buzzing, right? Maybe if you're more of an intermediate player, you may want to get your bar chords down and be able to switch through those all over the fretboard without any buzzing or knowing exactly where to put your fingers. But small little goals like that are something that you really need to write down. That way you can break those small goals down into little practice points that you can tackle on a daily basis and see progress in those little areas. So like, for example, you could practice, I'm doing 10 minutes on making a C chord, right? That's it, you're working on, or whatever chords you're working on, maybe you're working on G and C. And then I'll spend 10 more minutes working on strumming, something like that. So that's the first one, is if you don't have a plan in place or a goal to shoot for, then you're probably gonna have a problem with all the other things that aren't gonna matter anyway. Then tips for making things musical and speed, I think it was.
Musicality and speed, yes.
The musicality, the biggest thing that's helped me is trying to sing what I play on the guitar, or at least hear it in my head. So, let's see what note.
Nice.
Okay, so being able, just working on playing what you're singing, even if it's going just up and down a major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 7, 1. Right? So, and I wish I would have paid attention to this guy. I could sing it like it was yesterday. It was probably 15 years ago, maybe 14 years ago. Yeah, about 14 years ago. He's like, just work on singing what you play and then play it. And he was at a guitar store and he told me that. And I was like, yeah, right, that's impossible. It's not impossible, it's just cut off hard at first. So that's what I would do for musicality. And for speed, be extremely intentional and set your metronome as low as you can. So if you're working on, let's say, a minor scale, that's pretty slow for me. But I can play it where I'm not making any mistakes. If that's too slow for you, if you're still making mistakes, slow it down even more to where you can think about every little muscle movement that's going on. So that's one type of practicing that you can do, right? And nobody likes to do it.
It's a little boring.
But the only reason I can do that is because I sat there and programmed it in, right? Stay relaxed for building speed, very small motions. I mean, that's not always the case. Some players, like Eddie Van Halen, play like this when they're picking. But I find that the majority of people, if you work on small, really controlled motions that are relaxed, but you can't do that unless you program it in, right? Treat your brain just like a computer. You're programming all the ones and zeros very slowly. And using a metronome is a great way to keep track of this. Find that tempo where you can think about each movement that you're incorporating when you're playing through something like that. And that'll be kind of your baseline. As soon as you can do that, you can move it up a little bit. And then once you've been working on it for a while, at some point you're gonna have to start to push yourself to build speed. And like my favorite exercise for that is just picking on one string.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's what I did for a warm-up exercise. I'm not very warm right now, so I can do that with whatever BPMs that would be on a metronome. I'll do that for a while and then take for 2 minutes and then take a break. And then I can push, I will literally feel like I can push it a little more than I can because I'm starting to warm up, starting to get your technique dialed in. So those are just a couple things that have helped me with speed.
Yeah.
And the musicality thing, listen to a lot of music, learn a lot of songs, and you'll see how people start to use these chords and scales and arpeggios and things like that.
Absolutely. And one more thing going back, because we talk about using a metronome a lot, and some people just go, yeah, you say a metronome, but where the heck do I get a metronome? You can go out and you can buy actual metronomes, but also online. If you just search metronome, it's very easy to find a metronome that will work well and totally do what you want it to. So we talk about it a lot, but not everybody knows where to find them. So. Okay, let's do a question from YouTube here. So this one is from Strike. My biggest issue is staying motivated to put in the requisite time above other projects.
Okay. Probably if guitar isn't like your main thing in the world like it is mine, then I could totally see how even I have problems with that, and this is like my main thing, right? So what you might want to do is set a goal for yourself, like get a plan in place for practicing, write out your schedule, and make it something realistic to where you don't feel like you're giving up all the other things you want to do because guitar is demanding so much of your time. And that starts at maybe 20 to 30 minutes a day, 4 to 5 times a week, maybe 4 to 6 times a week if you can push that. But that's something that's manageable. Like when you get home from work or from school, you'll be like, rest for now, do whatever you want to decompress, and then pick the guitar up for half an hour and work on those tiny little manageable goals that you set for yourself, like I was talking about in the last question before last that I talked about. But starting out with something that's reasonable is going to help you, and if you're consistent with it, 4 to 6 days a week, 30 minutes, you're going to see improvement, and it's probably going to make you want to practice more. And what you're doing is just building off of those little wins by setting something that's realistic. Not saying, I want to be the best guitar player in the world, practice 4 hours a day. Well, everybody wants that, but almost nobody can do that, right? So I would suggest putting that little plan in place and being really consistent with it and starting to build on little wins like that.
Nice. That's good advice. I agree. Okay, we'll do another one here from a member. This one is maybe not a beginner question, so keep that in mind.
Okay.
But it's about the cage system, which is kind of a system that we use. It's one of many or a few systems that we use basically to like navigate and break down the fretboard to kind of more easily understand where things are located and why they're there. So this one's from David L. Describe the caged system, or CAGED system, and how I can use it, and resources to best learn it. I'm still a beginner, still need to get 1/3 of the fretboard, 8 to 12th frets into memory. The fact that you have more than that's actually pretty
that's good,
darn impressive. I know some majors, minor, and one blues scale.
Okay, great. We have a caged 1 series. It's finished. It just hasn't been put up yet. So in the new year, that's going to be put up, and it's going to be a really good resource for you, David. The heart of the cage sequence, I assume you know your bar chords already. I'm pretty sure you do, just from what I've seen in the forums. But for bar chords, like your E bar chord, right, I just played every major chord all the way up the fretboard, and I have a coffee on my guitar. That's great. And the same thing with your A shape, right? A, B flat, D, C, C sharp, D, E flat, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, right? The cage sequence, all it is taking the open chords C, A, G, E, and D and making movable chords out of them. Same, you just did that with the E and the A shape. You can do the exact same thing with the C, G, and D chords. Probably the best example of this is the D. So you can do the same thing, make a bar chord out of it. So E flat, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, B flat, B, C, C sharp, D. Same thing with the C chord. You can do the exact same thing. This one's a little impractical. I'll usually only play the 4 top notes. Leave that low root out. But for demonstration purposes, we're just moving the C chord up the fretboard, right? All the way up till you get C again. And the same exact thing for G. This one's really impractical. It's nasty. Look at that. But you can just do this top 4 strings. It's great. I'm gonna do the whole thing for you. So, and you have to know your notes on your low E string really well for this one, just like your E shape. So it's B, C. Oh, sorry. B, C, C sharp, D, E, E, F, F sharp, and G. Because your root's right there. Now, all the caged sequence of chords is it's making one chord, let's pick a G chord, with all 5 of those shapes, C, A, G, E, and D. So you can use all 5 of those shapes, C, A, G, E, and D, to make G chords all the way up and down the fretboard. What happens when you do that is you have home bases for all the chord tones in a G scale, like, or in a G chord when you're playing over a G chord, right? So if you have a G, C, A, G, E, D. That's the cage sequence. So C, A, G, the next chord in the sequence is an E. So you have a G major chord with the E shape. The next chord in the sequence is C, A, G, E, D. So the next shape is a D shape, but it's still a G chord. Let's move it a D up until you get to a G root. Next chord in the sequence is a C. So it's just a G chord using the C shape. Oh, it's just like using a capo, man. But now, when you do that, I know where all the notes in a G chord are, and I know 5 different ways to play a G major chord up and down the neck. And that's super valuable for lead and rhythm guitar.
Right.
That is what it is, and that's the series Caged 1 covers that in detail, and it's very slow, very step by step, so it's really easy to understand and really useful. Like one exercise I've been doing lately is playing a G, C, D, in every possible way that I can using the cage sequence. So that's a G, C, and D, right? G, C, D,
Nice.
G, C, D, G, C, D, G, C, D. Finally back to a G. Nice. That's super useful because no matter what you're playing, if you're playing with another guitar player or another keyboard player, you have tons of options open to you, so you're not like stepping on people's toes and things.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's one thing to mention. Those, when you're playing the same chord a bunch of different ways, they're just slightly different variances, but they're the same chord.
Same chord, all G's, B's, and D's, just kind of arranged differently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very cool. And again, I'll mention that series will be actually coming out pretty soon for those of you guys who are members. And that, I mean, it's probably what, like an hour's worth of going
Yeah,
to the cage?
it's at least, I would say it's at least an hour's worth. Well,
Yeah.
maybe somewhere around there.
Yeah.
But it's very slow and step by step.
But we do have some cage lessons on YouTube that
Yeah.
are kind of shorter and punchier. So if any of you guys are interested in learning more about the cage system, you can check it out on our YouTube channel as well. Okay, we'll grab another question from YouTube here. This one is from Donna Anderson. Just got my first guitar.
Awesome.
Congrats. It seems like when I tune one string and go on to the next, it comes loose, and I don't know how. Any tips or anything? I don't know what to do. I had it tuned, but it came untuned.
Okay.
Pretty common.
The first thing that I do when I sit down with my guitar, even if I just, went upstairs to grab a coffee or talk to Andrew about something, is make sure it's in tune. I usually have to tune it again. So it's common to have to tune your guitar multiple times per practice session. But if this isn't an electric guitar, which it sounds like it might be, I'm not sure. If it's an electric guitar, a lot of times they come with tremolos or whammy bars, right? And if I tune this string up,
Yep.
the other strings go, go flat? Yeah, they go flat.
It'll go flat, yeah.
So listen,
You can hear it.
you can hear it.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is, like, say your guitar is really out of tune and you have a tremolo on your guitar like this, you have to tune it, and then every time you, like, as soon as this string's in tune, as soon as I tune this one, if it's way out, this one's gonna be out now.
Yeah.
Because the floating tremolo is, kind of compensating for it. So you get it in tune a little bit, then you make another pass for it, get a little bit more in tune, you get it closer, 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 closer. And usually with a tremolo thing, if it's really out of tune to start with, 3 or 4 times should do it. You'll get fast at it. And tuning is one of the biggest pains in the butt when you're first learning how to play the guitar. But our YouTube channel, there's a really good video. It's like 20 minutes long on how to tune your guitar by ear and how to tune it with an electronic tuner. I'd really go check that out. But it's normal to have to tune your guitar multiple times if you have an electric guitar with a tremolo. If you have an acoustic guitar and your strings are brand new and they haven't been stretched out, just give them a stretch like this. And you'll notice that they can probably go way out of tune at that point. See, that one just went out.
Yeah.
And these strings they've been on there for a while.
Yeah,
So,
that's pretty. I mean, if you think about it, it's metal, right? It's
Yeah.
malleable, so it stretches, and obviously temperature is going to affect it a lot, humidity and things like that. And one thing I will mention, because you said you're talking about with a tremolo, and the tremolo actually just exacerbates the issue, even with a guitar that's a hardtail, what we call a hardtail, which just means no trem. What happens is when you on one string create more tension, so you make that string tighter, obviously it's going to make less tension on the other strings.
And it moves the neck too. Yeah.
Absolutely, and the neck is going to bow a little bit more when it pulls harder, again, which loosens those other strings. So it's all a balancing act. So you'll find if, let's say, your one string is way out of tune, and the other strings are all in tune. You tune that one, let's say it's flat, you tune that one up, the rest of the strings are all gonna be slightly low. It's not gonna be as obvious as with a trem. Trem, it's very obvious usually. But you do have to fine tune a little bit. So usually I find like when I'm tuning, let's say putting on a brand new set of strings where you're tuning from 0 all the way up, you kind of have to go through again.
They could
go
go
through
cycle a
again.
lot, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the name of that? Is it it's the new Gibson, whatever the auto-tune thing. I can't
remember the name.
I'm gonna buy one of those for my wife because she uses a lot of alternate tunings in her shows, and it's just a hassle. Like she uses a lot of capos and alternate tuning, so all you do is hit a button and it tunes your guitar for you. It's awesome.
There's a thing that sits in the headstock that does that. They got a bad rap back, I think, in 2015.
When
They made a version 2, Gibson did, and they're way more accurate.
they're
So
like I was impressed when
Yeah.
I saw them and used them. I want them on all my guitars.
I'm still a cork sniffer and probably wouldn't do it. But they're pretty amazing. And just remember, like, even as gigging players, like I know for me when I'm playing a gig, I'll tune my guitar multiple times a song.
Oh, yeah.
It's just part of being a guitar player, and you get quick at it as you get better and better.
And
So-
you get to know like my G string is out of tune. Just check it real
100%.
quick and go on.
Yeah.
But it's just part of life as a guitar player.
yeah, it's all worth it, I promise.
It is.
We'll grab another members question here. This one is from Thirsty30. That's a funny name. Tips on getting both sets of fingers to find the right string when playing scales in particular. I'm having trouble picking or fingering the correct string at the same time, so it's syncing that up, right?
I would kind of divide the challenge at first. So one, if you're doing scales, either 2 notes or 3 notes per string, either traditional pentatonic or major scales, take some time and devote it just to your right hand, to your picking hand. Don't even worry about this hand. So go back here and do, if you're working on 2 notes per string like a pentatonic, just do that. Actually look back at your hand and just work on that. Program in where your strings are into that picking hand. Right? And it's going to be a lot easier than trying to do both hands at the same time. And the same thing goes, don't worry about, being speedy or accurate with this. Well, you work about accuracy, but don't worry about being speedy or, your technique with your right hand when you're working on, say, an A minor pentatonic. You can use just all downstrokes or something. And really focus all of your attention on your fretting hand. I would do that second, though. I would work on your picking a little bit first. That way you get a little bit more coordination, a little bit more programming in with your picking hand. And one exercise that I do all the time still, especially if I haven't played guitar for a while, is 3 notes per string.
Yeah.
Just a lot easier than trying to focus on both things at once. And like once you feel like you've gotten that up to a reasonable level, which it can be slow, it doesn't have to be fast. 1, 2, 3, just 3 notes on each string. It may take you weeks, it may take you months, who knows. But once you feel a little bit more confident with that, then try to put it along to a scale. It doesn't have to be fast at all. That way you can devote more of your attention to your fretting hand. And same thing. Okay.
One other thing I'll just very quickly mention, a lot of players, when they start playing, what they do, if I got my pick here, is they anchor their arm on the guitar and pick like this. So you see my wrist has no anchor point.
That would be really tough.
Right? A lot of people I see doing this. So what you want to do is you want to anchor your hand. Now, you're not going to do this all the time. A lot of guitar players you'll see when they strum, they kind of take it off and then they go back and forth. But when I want to be precise with my picking, I anchor the palm of my hand like that.
That way you have some kind of tactile reference for where the heck you are
Exactly.
on the guitar. I use my pinky and my hand like you did.
Pinky's a really common one too. You see that more, I think, with acoustic players more, but yeah, exactly.
Like pickup ring
Yep.
style, yeah.
Totally. So it kind of gives you a point of reference, and I guess really it's a muscle memory thing, but once you do that enough, you don't even have to look.
Yeah.
You can just feel the distances. And just one thing I was thinking.
Oh, 100%.
Get that out of my way. Okay. We'll do a Facebook question next year. So this one is from Daniel. This is a good question.
Daniel.
How do I become better than John Mayer?
Go to Berkeley, start writing a lot of music.
You got to drop out of Berkeley.
Well, you got to go first.
Touché.
If you want to be a songwriter, just start writing songs every day. Every day. Even if it's crappy songs. I don't know a ton about songwriting, but I know that everyone that I know that's a really good songwriter writes a lot.
Yeah.
That's the best answer I have for that.
Write a lot of songs. Focus on musicality over technical ability. Obviously, John Mayer is very technical, but the reason why his guitar playing works in like pop music, where most other guitar players haven't succeeded there, is because of how musical and how like beautiful his guitar parts sound. So I would say focus a lot on that. Lots of ear training, kind of work your way up. Melody.
Really singable things.
Singable. Yeah, I agree.
Singable.
Singable. Another member's question here. This one is from Jams. Hey, Nate.
James.
The best of the season to you. A few weeks ago, I had asked the question on how to build speed and accuracy in my picking. You were about to be married, so obviously did not have time to respond to my email, which you had requested I send for further info. You may have answered this tonight, but any or all info will help. So specifically, building speed and accuracy with picking.
I'm not the fastest or most accurate player in the world, but there's something that I really love. I love fast picking and fast playing. So I've done a lot of research into it. And here, let me just run down the list of things that I look for in picking. First of all, you have to match up your left and right hands, right? Or it's going to sound like this. Right? And to do that, maybe start doing legato exercises for left hand to get under control of that. I'm not picking any of those notes, right? I'm just working on getting some control over my left hand. And my favorite exercise for that is just a trill one, which since you're a member, you've probably seen it. Trill with those fingers. Trill with that one, switch it. Next pair. Next pair. Next pair. And last pair, right? All you're doing is getting some control and working up, your endurance with your left hand. Now, the next thing is being able to pick on a single string. That's it. If you can't do that, there's no way you're going to play fast. And there are a couple things to think about when you're getting your single string picking down. It's the motion, which there are no rights and wrongs. I see a lot of different people doing different things. Like Rusty Cooley picks like elbow picker, right?
Right.
He chopped my head off. He's so fast, but I found that a lot of people have difficult time with that because they am getting tendonitis or something. So think about how you're going to move the pick. You can do it from your elbow. You can do it from your wrist like this, just your wrist, or you can do like a rotational movement, and that's what I like to do just because I don't have to put much effort into it. And I feel I can get that faster than the other ways. Right? This is accurate for me, or you can use your thumb, which I'm not very good at, but I use a little bit of that when I do my wrist. So think about the way you're moving your pick, experiment with it, pick one that works best for you. Then just spend some time woodshedding one string. Think about every single motion. If you can't think about every little movement you're doing, you're going too fast. Okay? So do that for a minute or two on that string, then hop over to the B string. Do the exact same thing. And another thing you're going to have to think about as you do this is the angle of your pick. Right now mine's angled downward toward the floor. You can angle it parallel with the string, which not a lot of electric players do, more acoustic players do that. Or you can have it angled upward. Right? That's something you need to consider as well. But think about those things, make sure to stay relaxed. And go through picking technique 1 and picking technique 2 here on the side. And all this stuff is covered there. But getting this down to where you can pick on each single string accurately for a good amount of time without, messing up. Or, just putting in the time to get this coordination and just the physicality of picking down. Like, I could do this every day. I should do this every day. I just don't have time sometimes. But I generally do start up with a warm-up like this of some kind. That's step 1, is getting the single string picking down. After that, I would say you need to start, after, the legato with this hand, the picking on this hand, then you need to start matching these two hands up. And you'd start out very slow, programming and the same thing. All I'm doing is going up and down the minor scale, right? Building that coordination. I haven't even broken the metronome out at all yet. It's just kind of lining up the two hands. Once you've worked on that for a while, then get a metronome and start keeping track of where you are. Start at like 50 beats per minute, really slow, and then move it up to 50, and then you'll be able to start to track your progress. But those are the main things. After that, beyond that, it's being able to switch from string to string. And there's a lot going on there that I could spend another 20 minutes on here, but it's all in picking technique 2, I believe, on the site. But those are the starters. Like, if you can't do those things, you're gonna have a really hard time playing fast and clean, especially with picking on electric.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, so we're running out of time.
Okay.
We got lots of questions.
Good.
left.
Rapid fire.
So we can either do rapid fire, or we probably won't get to every single one. So if we don't get to your question, I'm sorry, but we're gonna do our best. We'll see how it goes. Okay, here's a beefy one for you.
Beefy.
This one was posted on the members forum earlier today. And it's a two-parter.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll go piece by piece. This one is from Danishman D.
Right.
I'm not
Correct.
sure exactly how to say it. I probably butchered that. Okay, Merry Christmas and cheers and happiness from the Orient. I just finished watching Legato Technique Video 2, and hammer-ons and pull-offs on the A minor pentatonic are satisfactorily good. Oh, great. But using the jam track and trying to make a solo out of it isn't really working out. So this is the first time I've shifted my focus to lead guitar after covering open and bar chords. I find it difficult to pick a tune out of the A minor pentatonic, and the jam track goes the other way. So making music out of that scale.
The first thing to do Well, there's a couple things you can do. I would say the first thing is to try to sing something before you play it, like I said earlier. So, what came in? Right? Try to sing something before you play. That's a lot of delay. Holy smokes. Another thing would be to start listening and learning the solos of your favorite players so you can see how they're using the pentatonic scale. And instead of just running up and down the scale, right? Start emphasizing just the notes in that chord. So that's really out of tune. Sorry about that, guys. But look at this. If you've learned the A minor pentatonic scale, this should look very familiar to you because that's almost all the notes in that scale. Sorry, it's hard to do. Right? It's almost all the notes. You're just missing some. So those are the notes you should emphasize if you're playing over an A minor chord. So if you know the notes in this arpeggio, which I'm not sure if it's in, sounds good on its own, but as a chord, nope.
It's just out of tune. I just laugh because it's out of tune. That's all. Yeah.
But those are the sing what you're gonna play before you play it, or try to. Learn where the chord tones are so you can, like if you're playing over an A minor chord, you can know exactly where this is the fifth. I know it's gonna sound good, but memorize what a fifth sounds like in the context of this.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not as bad, huh? And then start learning solos so you can see how your favorite players, how they use those scales, and start recognizing, oh, I know exactly what that lick sounds like over a minor chord because, I've memorized it, I've learned that solo.
One tiny thing I will add, because Nate gave you like a ton of things to work on, but I will give you one more thing. And it was how I started to make kind of like, I wrote a lot of my own riffs instead of learning other people's riffs, and I never learned chord tones. So what I started to do was I took my scale and would basically say, okay, if I just play through the scale, it's not gonna sound good. But if I vary the rhythm, and if I skip notes and head in one direction or the other, but skip certain notes, all of a sudden varying rhythm, skipping notes, or choosing different notes that aren't right next to each other, that's how you kind of start hearing things. And then eventually that will develop into, it's like, oh, I like the sound of what we call that interval.
Yeah.
And eventually you'll kind of start coming up with your own little riffs and licks. That's what I would say. So rhythm, and try skipping or changing up the order of some notes, and you can try that too. That's just a different approach as
It's a different road to reach the same place, right? My favorite thing on a minor pentatonic that a lot of people do or realize what it is, is the lower third up to the major third. And that can give you a lot of really cool stylistic things to do as far as blues and rock.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. So lower third, up to major third, back to the root. Here's the root, lower third up to the major third. Root, lower third up to the major third.
And that works particularly well in blues music because of the hybrid major-minor nature, right? Yeah.
Yep, cool.
Beautiful. And then the follow-up question, now, you wrote quite a hefty paragraph, so I'm gonna kind of break it down. So if I'm understanding this correctly, when you're teaching, you teach that first position of the minor pentatonic scale, right? So exactly, starting on that sixth string with your first finger. Well, you also go on later to play the similar scale on different spots on the fretboard. Yeah. So the idea is, or what he's asking basically is, can I play the same scale in different spots on the fretboard?
You get like the numbering system for those scales is like, for example, 6-1. The first number is what string the lowest root note is. So in this case, it's just an A minor pentatonic, right?
Yeah.
That's the lowest root note, 6th string.
Yeah.
So that's the first number. The second number is what finger you're playing that with, the first finger, so 6-1. Now, for the 6-1 scale, you can move this anywhere on the fretboard that you like.
Yeah.
The shape stays the exact same. The only difference is, name a note.
B flat.
B flat, so there's a B flat right here. If you move, still on the 6th string, so the lowest root note is on the 6th string, but my index finger is playing a B flat now. So if I play that exact same shape there, I'm playing a B flat minor pentatonic scale.
As simple as that.
Right?
And if I say play a D.
D. And the cool thing about this is drilling like this is going to help you memorize your low
Oh
E
yeah, big time.
and high E.
And now you're playing a D minor.
And not thinking anything differently because I know, like, that's a root, that's a root, that's a root. It's just I have to move it to where my reference point was a D instead of an A like we had originally.
And the cool thing is that the way that the pentatonic scale works, and the major scale and minor scale, same thing, where when you started, you played like that A shape, right? Like that A minor, the kind of the standard shape. Well, everywhere else, there is another A shape. So no matter where you are on the fretboard, you can repeat those same notes in different spots, which is then how we get like, oh man, what would it be? Would it be a 5? No. If you did on the 5th string.
Oh,
right
5-1. Like
5-1, yeah. So there, yeah, exactly. Same scale, but different spot, and you can use them interchangeably.
Right, and you only have to worry about when you get to the B string, because the tuning is different on that, you have to compensate for that. So up to there, it looks the exact same,
Oh yeah, right, the shape, yeah.
but it has 1 fret higher on the B. And you can move that around. That's the 5-1 shape because the lowest root note is on the 5th string, and I'm playing it with my index finger, my first finger. And you can move it anywhere. B flat.
Right. Okay.
And there's 5 of those, and you
Yeah.
don't feel like you're in a hurry to learn all 5. Just learn one really well, then move on and learn another one.
There's lots of guys who've gotten away with just one. A really good example of that is Albert.
King.
Is it Albert King?
Albert
no,
Collins?
it isn't. Yes, the Iceman was what he was called.
forget.
I can't. Yeah. No, I can't remember his name. Anyways, it doesn't matter.
You use a capo?
Yes.
Albert King.
Albert. I can't remember. Anyways, but he would play the same pentatonic shape, the open
Capo.
E minor one, and just use a capo and move it around, and he made a career out of it. So that's all I'll say.
It was awesome.
It was really awesome. Yeah, he played on a telly too, on the bridge pickup
Yeah.
with the cover still.
Yeah.
Anyways, nerdy stuff. Okay, we're gonna rapid fire now, if you're ready. Just to make sure I don't miss any. Okay, this one is from Karthik. I've been practicing every week for 3 hours a day. Switching between the strings has been a problem. And how long does it take to get comfortable switching? I'm assuming it's changing between chords.
Switching.
And he's practicing 3 hours a day. He's been playing for a week now.
I would give it at least. It depends on everybody. I've taught some people who are like up and running pretty well in like a couple weeks. I've had some people it takes a few months. If you're putting in the practice, 3 hours is a lot. I would consider breaking that up into your day, maybe hour and a half in the morning, hour and a half at night. But you should notice significant improvement. Like you should start to be able to make the chords clean and make the changes. I would say between a month or 2.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And if you don't see that, I would say that maybe you're trying to tackle too much at once. Just focus on making the chord clean first, right?
For sure.
And once you can do that with like a G and a C by themselves, then start working on switching. Because if you can't make the chords on their own, there's no way you're gonna be able to switch between them. So just work on getting the individual chord shapes down first, then work on switching between like 2 chords. And once you have that down, work on a 3rd chord, like a D. Once you can go to that, throw that in the mix. Also work on your strumming by itself at first, so you don't have to worry about the chords. You can concentrate fully on your strumming hand. Once you're feeling comfortable with that, then you can throw it into the chords and boom.
Yeah. Very nice. Next question here. This is from Iris. If I play guitar, I can hear the pick is touching the snares. I'm assuming that means strings.
Strings, yeah, sure.
And it ruins the sound. I don't really know how to describe it, but do you have any tips?
If you don't like the sound of the strings, of the pick on the strings, I would try maybe changing the gauge of pick you're using, the thickness of pick.
Yeah,
Generally, if you use a really thin pick, you're going to get a lot of pick noise and less volume out of the strings. Some pick noise is fine. Like, let me turn this off real quick. You can hear it in my lap.
Yeah.
That sounds fine to me for an unplugged electric,
That's
right?
part of the guitar.
Yeah, it's part of it. Like some people even switch picks to get more of that or less of that, right? So maybe if you're using a really thin pick, try like a medium thickness pick, or if you're using a really thick pick, try a little bit lighter of a pick. That's what I would do. Just experiment with it.
Next one here.
Experimentation.
Experimentation, yeah, absolutely. This one is from Whiteson. Is it necessary to study music theory to make my own music?
Technically, no. What music theory does for you, it gives you kind of a starting point or a baseline or something to identify as like, oh, I hear this sound in my head. What is it? I could be hunting around the guitar for 15 minutes trying to find out what it is. But if I know music theory and I've trained my ear, I'd be like, I already know that's a 1-5-6-4 progression, and on the guitar. So I could just go right to it. It just helps you identify things faster and know what your basic options are as a starting point, or it lets you work on even writing when you're away from the guitar. Like if I have an idea for a play along song for you guys and I know what it is, I'll write down a tempo, a feel, and then the chord progression for it or something like that. Or if it's a melody, I'll just notate it out in solfege or like scale degrees or something like that. So it helps a lot.
It absolutely helps. There's a lot of great players who never learned it.
Yep.
I obviously recommend it. I learned it later. Nate, you learned it earlier, right, when you were learning? And we kind of both ended up slightly kind of at same places, but kind of different avenues. It really, honestly, is going to depend a lot on the way you learn. That's a huge part of it. Okay, we got time for one more question here. This is the last member's question here. This is from Jesse. Is there a good quality cutaway guitar with 24 frets? And then please explain the circle of fifths. So those are both two pretty big questions.
A cutaway, 24 frets? That sounds like he's asking for an acoustic.
That's the thing. Like, I think
I don't even know if I've seen acoustic guitars with 24 frets, but I've never seen one in person.
With acoustic, I honestly don't think you're going to use the 24th fret on an acoustic anyway for most styles of music. If you're talking about electric, I would say like the PRS Custom 24.
That's what I bought. Well, I bought it C24.
Yeah. Is that what it's called? Yeah. I can't remember the
No,
names,
you got it right.
Okay.
There's two different ones, but acoustic guitars only usually come with 20 frets, right?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're just find a cutaway that you like, it's pretty rare to see an acoustic guitar with more than 20 frets. If you're talking about electric, I like PRS. Andrew, what do you like?
Well, for 24 frets, nothing. I don't use
Nothing.
I just would not use it. I find I don't even really play anything like above the 15th fret, to be honest. So I can't really have an opinion. It's not fair.
Yeah, PRS is the only 24 fret guitar that I currently own.
Yeah.
Other ones that I've had in the past have been old Fender HM Strat. A couple of Ibanez guitars, which I loved. I still wish I still had. Those are the only 24 frets I've ever owned.
Make sure that you actually need the 24th fret before going and seeking out a 24 fret guitar. It's handy. I had a 24 fret bass once, and I loved it for bass, but for guitar, I just didn't find it as useful.
Circle of fifths.
There you go. And now we're going to spend an hour talking about
theory. The cycle of fifths or circle of fifths is just, I don't know, a theoretical phenomenon where if you start on a C note, the key of C has no sharps and no flats, right? Count 5 notes away from that. C, D, E, F, G. Count 5 notes away from that and use G as you want. G, A, B, C, D. Count 5 notes away from that. D, E, F, G, A. Count 5 notes away from your A, B, C, D, E. And you keep going and going and going until you get back around to a C. It's just a cycle of fifths, or the interval of a fifth, right? A perfect fifth. And what it's most commonly used for is to figure out key signatures. So if you have the key of C major, 0 sharps, 0 flats, right? All natural notes. What's a fifth away from C? C, D, E, F, G. G natural. That key is going to have 1 sharp. 1 sharp. And it's F sharp. Don't worry about that yet. And go fifths away from your G now. G, A, B, C, D. Key of D major, D natural. So key of D major is going to have 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. 5 away from that is an A. That's going to have 3 sharps. So it's just going 0, 1, 2, 3 as far as sharps. Key of A major has 3 sharps, F, C, and G sharp, those 3. Now the way you can tell what sharps are on in a given key or not is just start with an F and look at your cycle of fifths and the F, what's after the F, C. What's after the F and C, F, C, G. So you just go 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So it's just used to figure out key signatures.
Yeah. And Jesse, since you're a member, music theory, I don't know which series specifically, but you dive into it pretty deep and
it's
go
pretty
into all
obvious,
the details. Yeah. So definitely recommend that. If you go to the plan section and then
go to the music
go
theory
to more and go to music theory, all the music theory plans are there. It's one of those. Okay, let's there's still more questions, but we're not going to be able to get to them today. I think if you guys like this, maybe we'll do another one, because it's fun to do just kind of questions off the cuff. I like it. Okay, so we're gonna do a little playing out. I'm gonna play a chord progression.
Okay.
Good luck.
Good luck,
Nate doesn't
buddy.
know what I'm gonna play. It could crash and burn pretty bad, but I'm gonna play a chord progression, and you're gonna solo over it. Are you ready?
Yep.
It won't be in that key. I'm telling you that. Ooh. Okay. See you guys.